Hi there my friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Hope you're all keeping well. A few days ago I'd finished a project I'd been working on for Derwent, and while I had the Derwent watercolour paint pans out, I thought I'd just have a play, a bit of a relaxing time in the studio with no pressure, and just make some bookmarks. A little way of using up supplies if I've got anything sort of left over, and just a relaxing time really when I've been working to a schedule or a deadline. So what I did to begin with, I just took 2 sheets of Derwent paper. One is the Inktense paper that I'm actually working on at the moment. It does have a texture to it, to the surface, so I class it as a cold press paper. Then, as you'll see in a minute when I move the little palette out of the way, I also took a piece of Derwent hot press paper, which is just called their Derwent watercolour paper. It's very smooth, has hardly any texture at all, which I class as a hot press paper. And I thought I'd just compare the two with the Derwent watercolours on, because I haven't made bookmarks with either of these papers before. As you can see, the Derwent watercolour paint pans are very vibrant and they dry lovely and matte. Ideal for taking photographs of your work if that's what you like to do, and also for sharing on social media if this is something you like to do as well. So they photograph really well. So just playing with some pigments there, and you'll be able to see how the paint settles onto the different papers. So the two to the left are the textured paper, and the ones I'm going on to now are the ones without texture, the hot press paper. As you can see, the paint pigments settle quite differently onto these papers depending upon the surface. The two that I'm going to be working on now are the hot press smooth paper, and they seem to be more highly sized than the textured Inktense paper, so the paint lays on the surface of the paper for a little bit longer before soaking in. So different effects, but it's just a nice way of working with some materials if you haven't tried them before, or papers you haven't tried before, and it's just relaxing. I had no plans of what else I was going to do with these apart from using some ink on top, and it's just, yeah, a chill out time with a coffee and some music playing. So I let them dry naturally, and now I'm going on with some fine liners. So for this one I just sort of went round the actual patterns that had been made by the pigments drying and settling on the paper. And the pens that I'm using are by Bianyo. I bought them years ago, a set of 9, and they range from a 0.05 right the way through to a brush pen. So the bigger the pen tip, the more pigment it lays down. They are water-based pens, but they're actually water resistant when they're dry, which means you can go on top of them with more paint or pencils and they won't shift underneath. So no pencil work at all for these. That's a photograph I took of a lupin in the garden, and I just decided that would look nice on this coloured background. As I said, there was no planning. It's just a case of just sitting, relaxing, and just seeing what happens really. So before I taped these strips of paper down, I did clip the corners with a corner cutter just to make the rounded corners to begin with. Also, I hadn't used masking paper on these, a masking tape on these 2 types of paper, and the one I'm working on now, when I went to lift the masking paper off, the masking tape off, it did start to tear the paper. But as you'll see at the end, when I'd waxed the finished pieces, you can't even tell, so no worries there. But it just shows you should heat up your masking tape before trying to remove it, and I didn't. So just putting on some fine lines there, just sketching in some of those leaves, very stylised. And as you can see on the right hand side, I am showing you the finished bookmarks. So I do go over the pen work quite a few times with different thicknesses of pen, And it's just nice to get a little bit of balance in there, I guess. So some darker, thicker lines, some thinner, finer lines. But, you know, creating little things like this is not only a great way of using up supplies that, you know, you might have a bit of paint left in a palette, or you might have some scraps of paper that have been left over if you've had to cut sheets of paper down for any particular reason. This is just a really nice thing to do. It's very relaxing. Also, they make really nice gifts. So if you're buying anybody a book for a birthday or Christmas or anything like that. Yep, I've spoken about Christmas and we're only in June. But it's just nice to do a little personalised bookmark to go along with it. And as you'll see towards the end of the video, I do wax my bookmarks so that they can, you know, be handed over to the recipient without any fear of the paint reactivating with water or anything like that. Hope everybody's keeping well and busy, and wherever you are, hope you've got sunshine. We haven't at the minute. It's quite hit and miss at the moment. Rain and a little bit of sunshine, then more rain. But I have managed to get some gardening done, which has been nice. And I'm just about to start a new pastel project that's just been sketched out. I sketched that out yesterday actually. So there'll be a pastel tutorial coming soon. So going on with a thicker liner there. And it's just nice. I just can't explain how relaxing this is. And if it goes wrong, it goes wrong. It's just a bookmark. So on to the third one. So more photographs of flowers that I'd taken in the garden and just having a play. And what I tend to do if you're drawing flowers and things like this with a pen, straight in with a pen, is make little dots, almost like a guideline. Just put a few dots on. It's like, you know, when you used to do as a child, joining the dots up. And it's a nice way of getting a few markings onto the paper and then just join those dots up. For me, you know, it works quite nicely. For you, you might find that a nice way to work. There you go, on with the little dots, just to get a feel for the shape I'm going on with. And then if you need to join them up to make a solid line, you can do. And if it's not the line that you want, you're only left with a few dots, and you can utilise that in the shading of the drawing or just for a little bit of added texture. So, you know, so stylised, nothing like the photograph I'm actually working from. But as I said, it's just a bookmark, nothing to worry about. Your bookmark, that's it. If a bookmark doesn't turn out very well, you just use it yourself. You don't have to give it away, you don't have to show anybody. And it's a nice way of experimenting with materials as well, and trying techniques that you haven't tried before. It's like having a usable sketchbook, a little bundle of sketches that are actually useful as opposed to just being in a book on a shelf. Stylising some leaves down the bottom, popping the stems in. And you can use little dots, little stripes. You can go with hatching shapes. You can go on top of this with gouache or coloured pencil, anything like that. Okay, so now we have the 4 little bookmarks all completed, but now we need to protect them. Then we need to protect them against any moisture, because all of this watercolour, even though the pen won't react, the watercolour will. And what I generally use is Dorlands Wax Medium. And it's just a really simple case of popping it on, leaving it to dry for 24 hours, and then it can be buffed to a sheen with a soft cloth. And all you do is Just get some on your finger, or you could use a brush if you want to, but you've got to be careful not to disturb the painting surface. And then you just pop it on and work it into the painting itself. And you will need to do the back of the paper as well, just in case that gets wet and seeps through. This is all you'll do. I'm just going to do one on camera and then I'll do the others off camera. So a nice thin coat, and I do leave it for 24 hours to dry. Bit of a messy business, but you could use gloves, or you could have a lint-free cloth and dip it in the wax and put it on that way. Make sure you go all around the edges, and as I said, we'll do the back of the bookmarks as well. So make sure that you cover all of the painted surface. This is how I protect the sketches in my sketchbooks as well. Any water-based mediums like gouache or watercolour pencil, watercolour graphite, anything like that, just protect it with a nice layer of wax. Obviously make sure your fingers are clean before you do this as well. And once it's dried, it won't reactivate. This wax, once it's dry, it won't melt or anything like that. Okay, so that's all covered now. So let's give it another sweep over. You don't want big bits of it. You want to make sure it's nice and smoothed out and there's not any areas where there's a big lump of it. And you'll see that when you come to buff it in 24 hours time, when it's completely dry, it goes to a nice satin-like sheen. But just double check that it's all covered. And that's it really. Okay, so it's 24 hours or just about, and the Dorlands wax that I applied yesterday, the Dorlands Wax Medium, is now dry. So these are all completely dry. A few crumbs on the edge there. So the next thing we do is we get a clean lint-free cloth and we buff them. So just place the cloth on and then go round in circles, and it just buffs the wax and gives it a nice sheen. And keep going. If you feel as though it's catching anywhere, it might not be dry, completely dry, so you might want to give it another few hours to fully cure. But these are feeling dry now. And once you've done that, you just get a tassel . Poke it through, tricky. And there you have a bookmark. And there you have it. 4 little bookmarks. It is nice if you're going to make anything like this to actually make them in larger batches. Just helps the process go a little bit quicker, so 4 or maybe 6 or maybe even 8. Don't forget to protect your bookmarks with some Dorlands Wax Medium or a similar product, and have lots of fun. And it's a way to use up remaining watercolours in a palette, or if you've just got sort of 15 or so minutes just to spare one day. And they make lovely gifts, and yeah, don't forget to sign them. You can sign them on the back or on the front if you want. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all again soon. Take care and bye bye for now. Bye.